Can I have my seat? Can I have my seat? Is it? Can I have my seat? Why did you jump up here? You stole my seat. Hi, can I sit? Can I sit in my seat? You look so comfortable. You looks like a comfortable baby. You so comfortable. I can't sit down because the cat stole my seat. So this is Spike's live now. He's gonna clean himself apparently. You do. This is my seat. Can I get you to scooch over, perhaps? Yeah, yeah. He didn't even wait for me to sit down. He took my seat, and now I can't sit. Spite. Yeah. Can I sit down here? Can I sit down? You want a treat? Want a treat? Yeah. Sick, that worked. Glad that worked, because I had no backup plan. And like hell am I gonna make a move? Adorable. Well, now you know why I was late. I was like, at a certain point, I got everything in here, and then he hopped up here, and I was like, well. And then I was like, I'm gonna close the door so you can't go see the birds, and then he didn't move, so I closed the door, and he still didn't move. So I was like, well, I guess I'll find out some other way, and then I realized I left treats in here. So, and look at this pillow. It's the cutest pillow. Thank you, Diana, for sending me the pillow. Thank you, Lady Aoife, for keeping me caffeinated. I got the Christmas seasonal line of Bones Coffee. Thank you very much, Lady Aoife, for your donation. And I will be getting to the. I did try the Nutcracker one. I wanna change what I did with this one. They smell phenomenal. The Nutcracker one, not what I was expecting. I'm gonna amend it a little bit and see what I can do with it, and maybe see if I can actually make content for the first time in weeks. I've been so distracted by little cat gremlins. I'm getting them acclimated and making sure that they don't fight Pond. I also have to get the studio back up and running because we are missing a chapter on the YouTube, and I do have to upload the past two chapters of Library of Souls, which I will get to as soon as I possibly can. I'm an adult and I have a job, and it takes up a lot of time and effort because capitalism. And has yours shown up yet? Your what? No? I've gotten two packages. One was from Diana, and the other one was from Lady Aoife. So if you sent a separate package, it has not shown up yet. Yeah, please don't knock that over. You can come back up here, and it's just, I'm sitting in the seat now. You can sit in my lap. You can sit directly next to me, or in the window. Perhaps up on the back. You can sit any of those places. I don't know why you're looking around like you have no place now, because I took my seat. Yeah, there we go. See? You can fit right here. Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that just as nice? No? Cat hair. Yay. That. He's so cute. Now that they've gotten used to their environment a little bit more, they haven't been as destructive. I say that with the full knowledge that they knock over the trash can in the living room every single day and scare the hell out of themselves. They also broke Pawn's water dish. Pawn's water dish was ceramic, and they knocked it off the shelf and shattered it into a bajillion pieces. So that was fun. Uh, and also, they're destroying the couch. Would I have it any other way? No, I would not. Who's adorable? Who's the best boy? Yeah, good boy. Mm. Sorry. He's so distracting. Yeah. Yeah, that was a bit of an unfortunate incident. I did have to sweep up wet ceramic shards that were covered in water. That was fun. That was really fun. But it's all good now. We have a backup water glass. I did vote today. I hope you all voted if you got the chance. I know sometimes it's hard, especially because we don't get the day off to go vote, which is crazy. But if you voted, congratulations. I'm proud of you. If you didn't vote, it's okay. Life happens. Try your best. Box was closed by the time I got off work. See, that's the trouble. Is a lot of people don't even get off work until after the polls close. So then, how the fuck are you supposed to get there? You know what I mean? And it's wild because I've worked some jobs that that they wouldn't even let you have a break to go vote. You would not feasibly, they'd be like, you can go on your lunch break, and you're like, my lunch break is 30 minutes and it's across town, and they were like, they nobody cares. Yours closed an hour earlier than it was supposed to. What is that? Can they do that? Why would that happen? I've never heard of that happening. I'm not saying it doesn't. I'm just saying I've never heard of it happening, and that's crazy that they're allowed to fucking do that. Yeah, I feel like that's illegal. Like, jobs are supposed to allow 2 hours during work to vote. Not all jobs do, though. They're supposed to. And if you press them on it, but when I first started voting, I didn't know that. And so, like, I got cowed into not voting the first place I was employed at because I didn't know any better. And a lot of people don't know the rights. If you push back on it, you can. But, like, a lot of the younger crowd don't know that you can push back on that shit. I didn't. When I was, the first time I was eligible to vote, I didn't know that. Someone told me afterward. Luckily, I was off today. Because it's Tuesday, and you know what that means. I know. You could send a mail-in ballot here. Oh. Mine would have if we had enough workers, but my boss and his son are out of town. That's that guilt trippy nonsense where it's just like, yeah, we're understaffed, and you're like, yeah, whose fault is that? Not mine. Later, like, that's what I would do. But then again, I don't give a fuck. Yes, we did. We went to the high school to vote. The strange light over the Arby's is brighter. It's a problem that we're not acknowledging. I don't go to Arby's anyway. The lady in the drive-thru is rude. That's why nobody goes to the Arby's that much. Line's always short. Love all the Night Vale references that are happening right now. I've been binging that nonstop. I was literally listening to it while getting ready for the which, speaking of which, we're almost at the tail end of the book. If you don't know why you're here, I read you every single week. This is book club, and I read you a story every Tuesday. And we've been working our way through the Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children series. We are currently on Library of Souls, which is book 3, and we're almost done with it. We only have 2 chapters left. And maybe, possibly, we could get through both tonight. I don't know for sure if we could, because it is a chunk. It is quite the chunk of pages here. And we did run over last time when we went live. But it's probably unlikely. I should stop after the 1 chapter, because 1 chapter is 20, but then if you add them all together, it's like 50 pages. So, but we are almost done. You going oh, that sounds like an awesome time. If you go to a Night Vale live, you'll have to tell me about it, because I'm digging it. I had never listened to it, and Ray got me started on it the other day, and I was in it. I binged it pretty much all the next day at work, and have been binging it ever since. You've been to 3? Oh, that sounds dope. That sounds amazing. Night Vale Live sounds amazing. Anyway, we are starting chapter 10 today, and there's only 10 and 11 left. And so we are almost at the end of the book, which is kind of crazy. This has been a long ride. This is a long series. We've been sticking with it. I'm amazed that it's lasted this long. If you need a recap, you can always go to the YouTube. Unfortunately, I will have to update the last 2 chapters. One I have a recording of, and I just have to upload it. The other one I'm going to have to re-record. TikTok will not give it to me. It says there's been some sort of a technical issue, but who knows what that could be. Yeah, sleepy boy. Sleepy boy. He put his paw on my butt. It's adorable. I'm going to have to get a cat cam if he continues to join me for the lives, because it's so cute. He's so cute. He's so tired. Such a tired boy from spazzing out all over the place earlier. He went absolutely insane earlier, and now he's really exhausted, clearly. I would love to get a cat cam. That'd be adorable. I go live with my alt account and just have the cat cam on the alt account so you can see the cat. Yes, okay. So last we left off, if you need a refresher, I'm sure you do, because last week was Halloween, so we did a Halloween special. And if you want that is also on the YouTube. I did already upload that one. I would love to. I do have an extra phone now. It's janky, but it works. And I actually catch them doing more whack-ass shit than Pawn. Pawn's old. Pawn likes to lay around and not do much. So the amount of times she does something epically hilarious is slim to none and mostly accidental. These are kittens. They do crazy shit every single day. I accidentally startled Nancy just by walking in the hallway, and she went to dart away from me and then just ran flat into the air vent grate on the wall. And and then tried to run into the living room and then hit the trash can and knocked it over, which was hilarious. And if I had known she was in the hallway, I definitely would have got it on video. That's the thing, is it always happens spur of the moment type of shit that you wish you had caught when it happens. Don't just, I can't just live my life whipping my camera out all the time, cutting corners in my own house with my camera rolling. But, yeah, what was that? Did you hear that loud noise? Good boy. Safe in the house. What is that? Good question. Let's not look too deep into that, shall we? Now, for the recap, in case you need a refresher, we went into Abaton, or the Library of Souls, with Call and his whites, who had taken everybody hostage, and maybe I should shut that window, but it's going to get unbearably hot in here, so we're going to deal with it. Anyway, it all sort of went according to Call's plan up until the last second, when Bentham took a shot of Jacob's grandpa's, Abe Portman's, soul, and so he could see the soul jars, and fought Call, as giant demon monsters are wont to do, and then quickly gave Jacob and Miss Peregrine a way to close the loop. And when they closed Abaton and went back to Devil's Acre, and that's where we left off. It just wants to hear the story too. No. Hey, baby. Although, this guy does. You want to hear the story, Spike? You like the story. Anyway, so, and that's what you missed on Glee. We went into Abaton. I was pretty much looking at a lot of jars for the last bit of it. Some people died. Luckily, nobody on the peculiar side, really. And that's where we left off. So, with that being said, who's ready for Chapter 10? Excellent. After the loop collapsed and the tower fell, we weren't allowed to stand shell-shocked and gaping, at least not for long, though it seemed the worst dangers were behind us, and most of our enemies had been felled or captured. There was chaos all around, and work to be done. Despite our exhaustion and bruises and sprains, the Embrins set about doing what Embrins do best, which was to create order. They changed into human form and took charge. The compound was searched for hidden whites. 2 surrendered outright, and Addison discovered another, a miserable-looking woman hiding in a hole in the ground. She came out with her arms raised, begging for mercy. Sharon's cousins were employed constructing a makeshift jail to hold our small but growing number of prisoners, and they set happily to work, singing while they hammered. Sharon was interrogated by Miss Peregrine and Miss Avocet, but after just a few minutes of questioning, they were satisfied that he was merely a mercenary, not a secret operative or a traitor. Sharon had seemed as shell-shocked by Bentham's betrayal as the rest of us. In short order, the Whites' prisons and laboratories were emptied and their machines of terror smashed. The subjects of their horrible experiments were brought out into the open and attended to. Dozens more were freed from another block of cells. They emerged from the underground building where they'd been held, looking thin and ragged. Some wandered in a daze and had to be corralled and watched, lest they walk away and get lost. Others were so overwhelmed by gratitude they couldn't stop thanking us. One small girl spent half an hour going from one peculiar to another, surprising us with hugs. "You don't know what you did for us," she kept saying. "You don't know what you did." And here's a picture of the white and the ground. It was impossible not to be affected by it, and as we gave them what comfort we could, we were beset by sniffles and sighs. I could not begin to imagine what my friends had been through, much less those who'd spent weeks or months in Call's keeping. Compared to that, my bruises and traumas were inconsequential. The rescued peculiars I'll remember most were three brothers. They seemed in fair health, but were so shocked by what they'd experienced that they would not speak. At the first opportunity, they retreated from the crowd, found a bit of rubble to hunker on, and stared hollowly around them, the oldest with his arms stretched around the other two, as if they could not quite square the scene before them with the hell they had accepted as reality. Emma and I crossed to where they were sitting. "You're safe now," she said gently. They looked at her as if they didn't know the meaning of the word. Enoch saw us talking to them and came over with Bronwyn. She was dragging a barely conscious White behind her, a white-coated lab worker with his hands tied. The boys recoiled. "He can't hurt you anymore," Bronwyn said. "None of them can." "Maybe we should leave him here with you a while," said Enoch with a devilish grin. "I bet you'd have a lot to talk about." The White lifted his head. When he saw the boys, his blackened eyes widened. "Stop it," I said. "Don't torment them." The youngest boy's hands curled into fists, and he started to get up, but the oldest boy held him back and whispered something in his ear. The younger boy closed his eyes and nodded, as if putting something away, then tucked his fist tightly under his arms. "No, thank you," he said in a polite southern drawl. "Come on," I said, and we let them be, Bronwyn dragging the White along behind her. And there are the three boys. We milled about the compound, awaiting instructions from the Imbrans. It was a relief, for once, not to be the ones who decided everything. We felt spent but energized, exhausted beyond belief, but charged with the crazy knowledge that we had survived. There were spontaneous bursts of cheering, laughter, songs. Millard and Bronwyn danced across the scarred ground. Olive and Claire clung to Miss Peregrine, who carried them in her arms as she buzzed around, checking on things. Horace kept pinching himself, suspicious that this was just one of his dreams, some beautiful future that hadn't yet come to be. Hugh wandered off by himself, no doubt missing Fiona, whose absence had left a hole in us all. Millard was busy fretting over his hero Perplexus, whose rapid aging had stopped when we entered Abaton, and, strangely, not yet resumed. But it would, Millard assured us, and now that Call's tower was destroyed, it was unclear how Perplexus would reach his old loop. There was Bentham's Panlupticon, of course, but which of its 100 doors was the right one? Then there was the matter of Emma and me. We were attached at the hip and yet hardly exchanged a word. We were afraid to talk to each other, I think, because of what we had to talk about. What would happen next? What would become of us? I knew Emma couldn't leave Peculiardom. She would have to live inside a loop for the rest of her life, be it Devil's Acre or some other better place. But I was free to go. I had family and a home waiting for me. A life, or the pale approximation of one. But I had a family here too, and I had Emma. And there was this new Jacob I had become, was still becoming. Would he survive back in Florida? I needed all of it. Both families, both Jacobs, all of Emma. I knew I would have to choose, and I was afraid it would split me in half. It was all too much, more than I could face so soon after the trials we'd just endured. I needed a few more hours, a day, to pretend. So Emma and I stood shoulder to shoulder and looked outward, throwing ourselves into whatever the Embrins needed of us. The Embrins, overly protective by nature, decided we'd been through enough. We needed rest, and besides, there were tasks, they said, that peculiar children had no business taking part in. When the tower fell, it had crushed a smaller building beneath it, but they didn't want us combing the wreckage for survivors. Elsewhere in the compound, there were ambro vials to be recovered, which they didn't want us going near. I wondered what they'd do with them, or if those stolen souls could ever be reunited with their rightful owners. I thought about the vial made from my grandfather's soul. I'd felt so violated when Bentham used it, and yet, if he hadn't, we never would have escaped the Library of Souls. So in the end, really, it was my grandfather's soul that had saved us. It was gratifying to know that at least it had not gone to waste. There was work to be done outside the Whites' compound as well. Along Lush Lane and elsewhere in Devil's Acre, enslaved peculiar children needed to be freed. But the Embrins insisted they should be the ones to do it, along with some peculiar adults. As it happened, they would face no resistance. The slavers and other turncoats had fled the acre the moment the Whites fell. The children would be collected and brought to a safe house. The traitors hunted down and brought before tribunals. None of this was our concern, we were told. Right now we needed a place to recuperate, as well as a base of operations from which the reconstruction of peculiardom could begin. And none of us wanted to stay in the Whites' fear-haunted fortress any longer than we had to. I suggested Bentham's house. It had tons of space, beds, facilities, a live-in doctor, and a panlupticon, which, you never know, might come in handy for something. We moved as dark was falling, loading one of the Whites' transport trucks with those of us who couldn't walk, the rest marching behind it. We crossed out of the fortress with a little help from the bridge hollow, which lifted the truck across the gap first, and the rest of us in groups of 3. Some of the kids were frightened of the hollow and needed coaxing. Others couldn't wait and clamored for another ride once they'd crossed. I indulged them. My control over hollows had become second nature, which was satisfying if slightly bittersweet. Now that hollows were nearly extinct, my peculiar abilities seemed obsolete. This manifestation of it anyway. But I was okay with that. I didn't care about having a showy power. It was just a party trick now. I'd have been much happier if hollows had never existed. We traveled through the Devil's Acre in a slow procession, those of us on foot surrounding the vehicle like a float in a parade, others riding its bumpers and roof. It felt like a victory lap, and the acre's peculiars flooded out of their homes and hovels to watch us pass by. They had seen the tower fall. They knew things had changed. Many applauded. Some gave salutes. Others lurked in the shadows, ashamed of the role they'd played. When we arrived at Bentham's house, Mother Dust and Ronaldo met us at the door. We were welcomed warmly and told the house was ours to use as we needed. Mother Dust immediately began treating the injured, showing them to beds, making them comfortable, anointing them with dust. She offered to heal my bruises and the bite wounds across my stomach first, but I told her I could wait. Others were worse off. I told her how I'd used her finger, how it had saved my life and the lives of others. She shrugged it off and turned back to her work. I insisted. "You deserve a medal," I said. "I don't know if peculiars give medals, but if they do, I'll make sure you get one." She seemed taken aback by this somehow, and let out a choking sob before hurrying away. "Did I say something wrong?" I asked Ronaldo. "I don't know," he said, concerned, and went after her. Nim meandered about the house in a daze, unable to believe what Bentham had done.
"There must be some mistake," he kept repeating. "Mr. Bentham would never betray us like that." "Snap out of it," Emma said to him. "Your boss was a slimeball."
The truth was a bit more nuanced, I thought, but making an argument for the complexity of Bentham's moral character wasn't going to make me terribly popular. Bentham didn't have to give up that recipe or take on his monstrous brother. He made a choice. In the end, he damned himself in order to save the rest of us. "He just needs time," Sharon said of Nim. "It's a lot to process. Bentham had a lot of us fooled." "Even you?" I said. "Me, especially." He shrugged and shook his head. He seemed conflicted and sad. "He weaned me off ambrosia, pulled me out of addiction, saved my life. There was good in him. I suppose I let that blind me to the bad."
"He must have had one confidant," Emma said. "You know, a henchman, in Igor."
"His assistant," I said. "Has anyone seen him?" No one had. We searched the house for him, but Bentham's stone-faced right-hand man had disappeared. Miss Peregrine gathered everyone together and asked Emma and me to describe him in detail in case he returned.
"He should be considered dangerous," she said. "If you see him, do not engage. Run and tell an Imbrin."
"Tell an Imbrin," Enoch muttered. "Doesn't she realize we saved them?" Miss Peregrine overheard him.
"Yes, Enoch, you are brilliant, all of you, and you've grown up remarkably. But even grown-ups have elders who know better."
"Yes, miss," he said, chastened. Afterward, I asked Miss Peregrine if she thought Bentham had planned to betray us from the beginning.
"My brother was an opportunist above all else," she said. "I think part of him did want to do the right thing, and when he helped you and Miss Bloom, he did so genuinely. But all along he'd been making preparations to betray us, in case that turned out to be advantageous for him. And when I told him where to stuff it, he decided that it was."
"It wasn't your fault, Miss P," said Emma.
"After what he did to Abe, I wouldn't have forgiven him either. Still, I could have been kinder."
She frowned, her eyes wandering.
"Sibling relationships can be complex. I wonder, sometimes, if my own actions had some bearing upon the paths my brothers chose. Could I have been a better sister to them. Perhaps, as a young Imbrin, I was too focused on myself.
I said, Miss Peregrine, that's... and then stopped myself from using the word ridiculous because I'd never had a brother or sister, and maybe it wasn't. Later, we took Miss Peregrine and some of the Imbrins down to the basement to show them the heart of Bentham's Panlupticon machine. I could feel my hollow inside the battery chamber, weak but alive. I felt awful for it, and asked if I could take it out, but Miss Peregrine said that for now they needed the machine working. Having so many loops accessible under one roof would allow them to spread news of our victory quickly throughout Peculiardom, to assess the damage done by the whites, and to begin rebuilding.
I hope you understand, Mr. Portman, said Miss Peregrine.
I do.
Jacob has a soft spot for that hollow, Emma said.
Well, I said, a little embarrassed, he was my first. Miss Peregrine looked at me strangely, but promised she'd do what she could. The bite wound across my stomach was becoming too unbearable to ignore, so Emma and I joined the line to see Mother Dust, which snaked out of her makeshift clinic in the kitchen and down the hall. It was amazing to watch person after person hobble in, battered and bruised, nursing a broken toe or a mild concussion, or in Miss Avosette's case, a bullet from Call's antique pistol lodged in her shoulder, only to stride out a few minutes later looking better than new. In fact, they were looking so good that Miss Peregrine pulled Rinaldo aside and asked him to remind Mother Dust that she was not a renewable resource and not to waste herself on minor wounds that would heal just fine on their own. I tried to tell her myself, he replied, but she's a perfectionist. She won't listen to me. So Miss Peregrine went into the kitchen to have a word with Mother Dust in person. She came out again 5 minutes later looking sheepish, several cuts on her face having disappeared, and her arm, which hadn't hung straight since Call had slammed her into that cavern wall, swinging freely at her side.
"What a stubborn woman!" she exclaimed.
When it was my turn to go in to see her, I almost refused treatment. She only had a thumb and forefinger left on her good hand. But she took one look at the zagging, blood-encrusted cuts across my belly and practically shoved me onto the cot they'd set up by the sink. The bite was becoming infected, she told me through Rinaldo. Hollow teeth were crawling with nasty bacteria, and left untreated, I would get very sick. So I relented. Mother Dust sprinkled her powder across my torso, and in a few minutes I was feeling much improved. Before I left, I tried to tell her again how much her sacrifice had meant, and how the piece of herself she'd given to me had saved us. Really, without that finger, I never would have been able to... But she turned away as soon as I started talking, as if the words "thank you" burned her ears. Rinaldo hurried me out. I'm sorry. Mother Dust has many other patients to see. Emma met me in the hall.
"You look marvelous," she said. "Thank the birds. I was really starting to worry about that bite."
Be sure and tell her about your ears, I said.
"What?"
Your ears, I said louder, pointing to them. Emma's ears hadn't stopped ringing since the library, because she'd had to keep our hands aflame to light our way as we escaped. She hadn't been able to block out the terrific noise, which I worried had literally been deafening. "Just don't mention the finger."
"The what?"
"The finger," I said, holding up my finger. "She's very touchy about it. No pun intended."
"Why?"
I shrugged. "No idea." Emma went in. 3 minutes later, she came out snapping her fingers by her ears.
"Amazing," she said. "Clear as a bell."
"Thank goodness," I said. "Shouting is no fun."
"Ha! I mentioned the finger, by the way."
"What? Why?"
"I was curious."
"And?"
Her hands started shaking. Then she mumbled something Ronaldo wouldn't translate, and he practically chased me out.
We might have pursued it further, I think, if we hadn't been so tired and hungry, and if at that moment the smell of food had not wafted its way past our noses.
"Come and get it,"
Miss Wren shouted from down the hall, and the conversation was tabled. As night fell, we gathered to eat in Bentham's library, the only room big enough to hold all of us comfortably. The fire was stoked, and a feast donated by grateful locals brought in roast chicken and potatoes and wild game and fish, which I avoided on the off chance that it might have been caught in the ditch. We ate and talked and rehashed the adventures of the past few days. Miss Peregrine had heard only a little about our journey from Cairnholm to London, and then across bombed-out London to reach Miss Wren, and wanted to know every last detail. She was a great listener, always laughing at the funny parts and reacting with satisfying gasps to our dramatic flourishes.
"And then the bomb fell right on the hollow and blew it to smithereens,"
Olive cried, leaping out of her chair as she reenacted the moment.
"But we had Miss Wren's peculiar sweaters on, so the shrapnel didn't kill us."
"Oh, my heavens," Miss Peregrine said.
"That was very lucky."
When our stories had finished, Miss Peregrine sat quietly for a time, studying us with a mixture of sadness and awe.
"I'm so very, very proud of you," she said, "and so sorry for all that happened. I can't tell you how much I wish it had been me by your side, and not my deceitful brother."
We observed a moment of silence for Fiona. "She wasn't dead," Hugh insisted, "but merely lost. The trees had cushioned her fall," he said, "and she was probably wandering in the forest somewhere near Miss Wren's menagerie, or had knocked her head on the way down and forgotten where she came from, or was hiding." He looked around hopefully at us, but we avoided his eyes.
"I'm sure she'll turn up,"
Bronwyn assured him. "Don't give him false hope," Enoch said. "It's cruel."
"You would know about cruel,"
Bronwyn replied scornfully.
"Let's change the subject," Horace said. "I want to know how the dog rescued Jacob and Emma in the underground."
Addison hopped gamely onto the table and began to narrate the story, but he embellished it with so many asides about his own heroism that Emma was forced to take over. Together, she and I told them how we'd found our way to Devil's Acre, and how, with Bentham's help, we'd mounted our mini invasion of the Whites' compound. Then everyone had questions for me. They wanted to know about the Hollows.
"How did you teach yourself their language?" Millard asked.
"What's it like to control one?" asked Hugh. "Do you imagine you're one of them, like I do my bees?"
"Does it tickle?"
asked Bronwyn.
"Do you ever wish you could keep one as a pet?"
asked Olive. I answered as best I could, but was feeling tongue-tied, because it was a hard thing to describe, my connection with the Hollows, like piecing together a dream the morning after. I was distracted, too, by the talk Emma and I had been putting off. When I'd finished, I caught Emma's eye and nodded to the door, and we excused ourselves. As we walked away from the table, I could feel the eyes of the room on our backs. We ducked into a lantern-lit cloakroom, cramped with coats, hats, and umbrellas. It was not a spacious or comfortable place, but it was at least private, somewhere we wouldn't be walked in on or overheard. I felt suddenly and irrationally terrified. I had a difficult choice to make, one I had not fully grappled with until now. We were silent for a moment, facing each other, the room so deadened by fabric that I thought I could hear the beating of our hearts.
"So?"
Emma said, because of course she would start first. Emma, always direct, never afraid of an awkward moment.
"Will you stay?"
I did not know what I would say until the words left my mouth. I was running on autopilot, no filter. "I have to see my parents." That was unquestionably true. They were hurting and frightened and didn't deserve to be, and I had left them dangling too long.
"Of course," Emma said. "I understand. Of course you do."
A question hung in the air unasked. See my parents had been a half measure, a non-answer. See them? Sure. And then what? What would I say to them? I tried to imagine telling my parents the truth. In that regard, the phone conversation I'd had with my father in the underground had been a preview of coming attractions. He's lost it, our son is insane, or on drugs, or maybe not on enough drugs. No, the truth wouldn't work. So, what? I would see them, assure them I was alive and well, make up a story about sightseeing in London, then tell them to go home without me? They would chase me. They'd have cops hiding in the bushes at our meeting place, men in white coats with Jacob-sized nets. I'd have to run. Telling them the truth would only make things worse. Seeing them only to run away again would torture them more. But the idea of not seeing my parents at all, of never going home again, I couldn't get my mind around it. Because, if I was really being honest with myself, as much as it hurt to think about leaving Emma and my friends in this world, part of me wanted to go home. My parents and their world represented a return to sanity and predictability, something I was longing for after all this madness. I needed to be normal for a while, to catch my breath, just for a while. I had repaid my debt to the Peculiars and Miss Peregrine. I had become one of them. But I wasn't only one of them. I was also my parents' son, and as imperfect as they were, I missed them. I missed home. I even sort of missed my dumb, ordinary life. Of course, I would probably miss Emma more than any of those things. The problem was, I wanted too much. I wanted both lives, dual citizenship, to be peculiar and learn everything there was to learn about the peculiar world, and to be with Emma and explore all the loops Bentham had cataloged in his Panlupticon, but also to do the stupid, ordinary things normal teenagers do, while I could still pass for one. Get my driver's license, make a friend my own age, finish high school. Then I'd be 18, and I could go anywhere I wanted. Or any when. I could come back. Here was the truth, the root and bone of it. I couldn't live the rest of my life in a time loop. I didn't want to be a peculiar child forever. But one day, maybe, I could be a peculiar adult. Maybe, if I was very careful, there was a way to have it all.
"I don't want to go," I said.
But I think I might need to. For a while. Emma's expression flattened.
Then go, she said.
Thank you. I was stung. She hadn't even asked what a while meant. I'll come visit, I said quickly. I can come back any time. Theoretically, this was true. Now that the white menace had been crushed, there would, bird willing, always be something to come back to. But it was hard to imagine my parents signing off on more trips to the UK anytime soon. I was lying to myself, to both of us, and Emma knew it.
No, she said. I don't want that.
My heart dropped. What? I said quietly. Why not?
Because that's what Abe did. Every few years he'd come back. And every time he was older, and I was the same. And then he met someone and got married.
I wouldn't do that, I said. I love you.
I know,
she said, turning away.
So did he.
But it won't be like that with us. I grasped blindly for the right words, but my thoughts were a muddle.
It would, though. You know I'd go with you if I could, but I can't. I would age forward, so I'd just be waiting for you, frozen in amber. I can't do that again.
It wouldn't be long, just a couple of years, and then I could do what I wanted. I could go to college somewhere, maybe here in London.
Maybe, she said. Maybe, but now you're making promises you might not be able to keep. And that's how people in love get very badly hurt.
My heart was racing. I felt desperate and pathetic. Screw it, I'd never see my parents again. Fine, but I couldn't lose Emma. I wasn't thinking straight, I said. I didn't mean it. I'll stay.
No, I think you were being honest, she said. I think if you stay, you won't be happy, and eventually you'll come to resent me for it, and that would be worse.
No, I would never. But I'd shown my hand, and now it was too late to take it back.
You should go, she said. You have a life and a family. This was never supposed to be forever.
I sat down on the floor, then leaned back into the wall of coats and let them swallow me up. For a few long seconds, I pretended none of this was happening, that I wasn't here, that my entire world was woolen and black and smelled of mothballs. When I surfaced again to breathe, Emma was sitting cross-legged on the floor beside me.
I don't want this either, she said, but I think I understand why it has to be. You have your world to rebuild, and I have mine.
But it's mine too, now, I said.
That's true,
she thought for a moment, kneading her chin.
That's true, and I very much hope you do come back, because you've become a part of us, and our family won't feel whole without you. But when you do, I think you and I should just be friends.
I thought about that for a moment. Friends. It sounded so pale and lifeless. I guess it's better than never talking again.
I agree, she said. I don't think I could bear that.
I scooted next to her and put my arm around her waist. I thought she might pull away, but she didn't. After a while, her head tipped onto my shoulder. We sat like that for a long time. I have no idea where this necklace came from. Just FYI, someone gave it to me years ago and I don't remember. There's a line break. When Emma and I finally emerged from the cloakroom, most everyone was asleep. The hearth in the library was burned down to embers, the platters overflowing with food reduced to scraps, the room's high ceilings echoing with contented snores and murmurs. Kids and Imbrans lay draped across couches, curled up on the rug, even though there were plenty of comfortable bedrooms upstairs. Having nearly lost one another, they weren't about to let go again so soon, even if just for the night. I would leave in the morning. Now that I knew what had to happen between Emma and me, a longer delay would only torment us. Right now, though, we needed sleep. How long had it been since we'd closed our eyes for more than a minute or two? I couldn't remember feeling more exhausted. We piled some cushions in a corner and fell asleep holding each other. It was our last night together, and I clung tight, my arms locked around her, as if by squeezing hard enough I could lock her into my sense memory. How she felt, how she smelled, the sound of her breathing as it slowed and evened. But sleep pulled me down hard, and it seemed I'd only just closed my eyes when suddenly I was squinting against glaring yellow daylight pouring in from a bank of high windows. Everyone was awake and milling around the room, talking in whispers so as not to disturb us. We untangled ourselves in a hurry, self-conscious without the privacy of the dark. Before we'd had a chance to compose ourselves, in breezed Miss Peregrine with a pot of coffee and Nim with a tray of mugs.
Good morning, all. I trust you're well rested, because we've got lots of...
Miss Peregrine saw us and stopped mid-sentence, her eyebrows rising. Emma hid her face.
Oh, no.
In the exhaustion and emotion of last night, it hadn't occurred to me that sleeping in the same bed as Emma, even if sleeping is all we did, might offend Miss Peregrine's Victorian sensibilities.
Mr. Portman, a word.
Miss Peregrine set down the coffee pot and crooked a finger at me. Guess I was taking the rap for this one. I stood up and smoothed my rumpled clothes, color rising in my cheeks. I wasn't ashamed in the least, but it was hard not to feel a little embarrassed. "Wish me luck," I whispered to Emma.
"Admit nothing," she whispered back.
I heard giggles as I crossed the room and someone chanting, "Jacob and Emma sitting in a tree. YMBRYNE."
"Oh, grow up, Enoch," said Bronwyn. "You're just jealous."
I followed Miss Peregrine into the hall. "Nothing happened," I said. "Just so you know."
"I'm sure I'm not interested," she said. "You're leaving us today, correct?"
How did you know?"
"I may, strictly speaking, be an elderly woman, but I've still got my wits about me. I know you feel torn between your parents and us, your old home and your new one, or what's left of it. You want to strike a balance without choosing sides, or without hurting any of the people you love. But it isn't easy, or even necessarily possible. Is that about the size of it?"
Yeah. That's pretty much it."
"And where have you left things with Miss Bloom?"
"We're friends," I said, testing the word uneasily.
"And you're unhappy about it?"
That was the sound of the dog failing at life. Idiot. Okay. Well, yeah, but I understand. I think. She cocked her head.
Do you?
She's protecting herself.
And you,
Miss Peregrine added.
That I don't get. You're very young, Jacob. There are many things you're not likely to get.
I don't see what my age has to do with it.
Everything.
She laughed, quick and sharp, and then she saw that I really didn't understand, and she softened a bit.
Miss Bloom was born near the turn of the last century, she said. Her heart is old and steady. Perhaps you'll worry she'll soon replace you, that some peculiar Romeo will turn her head. I wouldn't count it likely. She's fixed on you. I've never seen her as happy with anyone, even Abe.
Really? I said, a surge of warmth building in my chest.
Really. But as we've established, you're young. Only 16. 16 for the first time. Your heart is just waking up, and Miss Bloom is your first love, is she not?
I nodded sheepishly, but yes, undoubtedly anyone could see it.
You may have other loves, Miss Peregrine said. Young hearts, like young brains, can have short attention spans.
I don't, I said. I'm not like that. I knew it sounded like something an impulsive teenager would say, but at that moment I was as sure about Emma as I'd ever been about anything. Miss Peregrine nodded slowly.
I'm glad to hear that, she said. Miss Bloom may have given you permission to break her heart, but I have not. She's very important to me, and not half as tough as she lets on. I can't have her mooning about and setting things on fire should you find yourself distracted by the feeble charms of some normal girl. I've been through that already, and we simply haven't the furniture to spare. Do you understand?
I said, caught off guard. I think so. She stepped closer and said it again, her voice dropping low and stony.
Do you understand?
Yes, Miss Peregrine. She nodded sharply, then smiled and patted my shoulder.
Okay, then. Good talk.
And before I could respond, she was marching back into the library and calling out, "Breakfast!" I left an hour later, accompanied to the dock by Emma and Miss Peregrine and a full complement of our friends and Imbrans. Sharon was waiting with a new boat left behind by fleeing ditch pirates. There was a long exchange of hugs and tearful goodbyes, which ended with me promising I would come and see everyone again, even though I didn't know how I'd manage that anytime soon, what with international flights to pay for and parents to convince.
We'll never forget you, Jacob,
Olive said, sniffling. I shall record your story for posterity, Millard promised. That will be my new project, and I'll see that it's included in a new edition of the Tales of the Peculiar. You'll be famous. Addison approached with 2 grim bear cubs trailing him. I couldn't tell if he had adopted them or they him. You're the 4th bravest human I've ever known, he said. I hope we'll meet again. I hope so too, I said, and meant it.
"Oh, Jacob, may we come and visit you?" begged Claire. "I've always wanted to see America."
I didn't have the heart to explain why it wasn't possible. Of course you can, I said. I'd love that. Sharon rapped his staff on the side of the boat. All aboard. Reluctantly, I climbed in, and then Emma and Miss Peregrine boarded too. They had insisted on staying with me until I met my parents, and I hadn't put up a fight. It would be easier to say goodbye in stages. Sharon unmoored the boat, and we pushed off. Our friends waved and called to us as we floated away. I waved back, but it hurt too much to watch them recede, so I half closed my eyes until the current had taken us around a bend in the ditch, and they were gone. None of us felt like talking. In silence, we watched the sagging buildings and rickety bridges pass. After a while, we came to the crossover. Were sucked rudely through the same underpass by which we'd entered, and spat out the other side into a muggy, modern afternoon. The crumbling tenements of Devil's Acre were gone. Glass-fronted condos and shining office towers risen up in their place. A motorboat buzzed past. The sounds of a busy, preoccupied present day filtered in. A car alarm, a cell phone ringing, jangly pop music. We passed a fancy canal-side restaurant, but thanks to Sharon's enchantment, the diners on the patio didn't see us as we floated by. If they had, I wondered what they would have thought of us. 2 teenagers in black, a woman in Victorian formal wear, and Sharon in his Grim Reaper cloak, poling us out of the underworld. Who knows, maybe the modern world was so jaded that no one would have batted an eye. My parents were another story, though, and now that we were back in the present, just what that story would be was starting to concern me. They already thought I'd lost my mind, or gotten into hard drugs. I'd be lucky if they didn't ship me off to a mental hospital. Even if they didn't, I'd be doing damage control for years. They would never trust me again. But it was my struggle, and I would find a way to deal with it. The easiest thing for me would be to tell them the truth. But again, I couldn't. My parents would never understand this part of my life, and to try and force them to could land them in a mental hospital. My dad already knew more about the peculiar children than was good for him. He'd met them all on Cairnholm, though he thought he was dreaming. Then Emma had left him that letter and a photo of herself with my grandfather. As if that weren't bad enough, over the phone, I'd actually told my dad I was peculiar. That had been a mistake, I realized, and selfish. And now, here I was, heading to meet them with Emma and Miss Peregrine at my side. On second thought, I said, turning to them in the boat, maybe you shouldn't come with me.
"Why not?" Emma said. "We won't age forward that quickly."
I don't think my parents should see me with you. This is all going to be hard enough to explain as it is.
"I've given some thought to this," said Miss Peregrine.
To what? My parents?
"Yes, I can help you with them, if you like."
How?
"One of an Imbrin's myriad duties is dealing with normals who become problematically curious about us, or otherwise troublesome. We have ways of making them uncurious, of making them forget they've seen certain things."
Did you know about this? I asked Emma.
"Sure, if it wasn't for the wipe, peculiars would be in the news every other day."
So, it wipes people's memories?
It's more of a selective cherry picking of certain inconvenient recollections, said Miss Peregrine. It's quite painless and has no side effects. Still, it may strike you as extreme. I leave it to your discretion.
Okay, I said.
Okay, what? Said Emma.
Okay, please do the memory wipe thing to my parent. That sounds amazing. And while you're at it, there was a time when I was 12 that I crashed my mom's car into the garage door.
Let's not get carried away, Mr. Portman.
Just kidding, I said, though I'd only sort of been. Either way, I was hugely relieved. Now I wouldn't have to spend the rest of my adolescence apologizing for the time I ran away, made my parents think I was dead, and nearly ruined their lives forever, which was nice. All right. Be really cool if she wiped that garage thing out. She won't. No, that is the end of chapter 10. Chapter 11 is like another good 30 almost pages. I don't know if we'll be able to get through it all, but I can keep right on trucking if y'all want me to. Or we can chill for the remainder of the live. Or I can get off here early and start the video game stream early. Whatever you all want to do, we can take a vote. I don't care. I'm down for whatever. It's Tuesday. I just like to hang out. Cat facts. We want to jump right into cat facts. We can do cat facts. I'm going to put my bookmark in the book. Diana, I'm glad you're here. Thank you for the pillow. It's so cute. Okay, yeah, because the last cat fact I did was the fact that I got cats, which wasn't as much of a cat fact as much it was my fact that I have cats. Happy anniversary. I have missed the last 12 cat. Oh no. Let's go ahead and do a cat fact. We're going through different breeds is where we've left off. So we're learning a lot about different breeds of cats. It's a fun time. Let me find where we left off. Yes. Yeah. We're gonna do the American Wirehair. Still counts, Kevin. The history of the American Wirehair cat is, like the breed itself, a bit unusual. In 1966, two ordinary barn cats, bestowed with the ordinary names Fluffy and Bootsy, produced an extraordinary kitten. This kitten had a springy, dense, coarse coat that was rougher to the touch than the coats of its parents. The kitten, named Adam, was brought by a breeder who suspected that Adam wasn't just an unusual cat, he was an entirely new breed. Samples of Adam's hair were sent to a geneticist who confirmed that the hair didn't match any existing breed. Amazingly, a rare spontaneous mutation had occurred, creating a never-before-seen cat. In addition to their wiry coat, American Wirehairs possess other unique qualities. Most notable are their high cheekbones and large eyes, which set them apart from their closest cousin, the American Shorthair. Their dense coats, which are similar to some terrier dog breeds, require less grooming than many other cats, and come in all colors and patterns. But while their coats may be coarse and hard, their personality is anything but. American Wirehairs are prized for their affectionate yet independent nature. They are just as content curled up on the couch purring next to their human companions as they are with entertaining themselves. The American Wirehair is the rarest of the breeds recognized by the Cat Fanciers Association, and the mutation that created it has never been seen in another country. Today, all American Wirehairs are descended from Adam, an apt name for the father of the breed. Fun stuff. Little picture. Little cats. Little baby cats. Adorable cats. Enjoy the cat, everybody. My cat, who's currently in the windowsill, is paying zero attention to this broadcast. Hi, Spike. Yes, I was talking about you. Now you look over here. What was so fascinating about outside? Did you hear that noise? Did you see that noise? Right, they could have. They could have. Adorable. We all like our cat facts here. But yeah, now we only have one chapter left in this book. And it feels like we've been reading this for a long time, but we're only doing this once a week. We've moved pretty swiftly through 3 books of this series. It's pretty great. For reading on a schedule and having people not be here and like me having problems with work and cats and my physical health. I was sick recently. I'm doing a lot better. My throat's a lot better. And my nose is finally cleared up. So that made this live a lot easier. It's Adam now making science. I can hear Pond lowing in the kitchen like a... Yeah, in all honesty, because when you consider that although we have some prolific readers in the audience, me being one of them, like, I read a lot. I'll read a book in a couple of days uninterrupted if I'm on my own devices. But the average adult, like, I'm sure everybody here knows at least definitely more than a couple people who've like, I haven't read a book since high school. And here we are cranking out at least a couple books a year as a group. Pretty phenomenal as an accomplishment. We've been together for a few years now doing this. Every week almost. It's me. I know several people who are like, you read as a hobby? And I'm like, yeah. Like, that's weird. Like, that's weird to a lot of people. Yeah. You can say that you have. Technically, you have. Audiobooks count. Audiobooks count, people. You cannot prove me wrong. It is still a book. You have consumed content. The words filtered in there. It was a book as a medium. You just listened to it. It counts. It counts. Got asked how I had time to do that. I've been streamlining Baccano as a series. The light novels, the Baccano light novels, been just punching through those suckers. Because they're not that long. Ableist, if books don't count. Yeah, it's ableist. If audiobooks don't count, it's ableist. Because there's blind people who miss reading. I'll just tell you that right now. I used to take care of a blind lady. Liked to read. Couldn't read anymore. Because of diabetes. But did she like to listen to things? Hell yeah. Does it count? Yes, it does. Next time someone tells you that it doesn't actually count if it's an audiobook, I've heard that argument several times. Yes, it does. Bring up blind readers. They exist. You gonna tell me that a blind person isn't allowed to read? Ableist. And thank you. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. End of discussion. Dyslexia too. Dyslexia is very prominent, and a lot of people with dyslexia don't like to read physical books for that reason. What's wrong with making it more accessible? Nothing. You're gatekeeping. That's all it is. You're gatekeeping so you feel superior, and that's not allowed here. This is an all access space. We don't do that here. Besides, I like to listen to things in my car all the time. And sometimes I go, yeah, you can head this way. And sometimes I'm at work and I still want to read this book. Lately, I've just been binging Night Vale, but sometimes you got to switch up the media because otherwise it gets a little stale. Can't listen to the same things all the time. You got to switch up your podcast, switch up your music. Sometimes you switch up, make it an audiobook. It's a fun time. And there are some things that I'm probably just not going to sit down and read. Like, Night Vale is basically a book. Night Vale is radio. That is public access radio, is what that is, and I couldn't be happier about it. To anybody who did have like a public access radio station that they listen to, this is probably somewhat alienating for younger people, but if you know, you know. Back before, if you grew up with a janky cassette player in your car, and it didn't always want to work, and sometimes shredded your Metallica tape, what else were you gonna do? So, like, if you've listened to public access radio, it's a public access radio station. It's fun. It's fun as hell. And besides, it can't be a book. The books aren't working. Do not read. That is a very serious thing. But it's a story. Yeah, it's a story. If you see a librarian, run in the opposite direction. Run, do not walk. Good night, Lady Eva. It's the end of the book. We'll recap it for you. As long as TikTok doesn't take it down, we'll have a copy. But good night, Lady Eva. Happy anniversary, and you have a good week next week. Also, thank you for the coffee. Which is delicious, but I think I'm going to make it differently next time. Oh, thank you, Swiftblood. I didn't get to say hi to Toby, so I'm going to say hi to Toby. Hi, Toby. Tell Toby I say hi. Toby, our honorary cat. He is a cat by association, and we love him very much. Spike loves that windowsill. He'll sit in that windowsill all night. I'm amazed he didn't start trashing the place halfway through the live. That was my first thought when I was like, I'm going to have to shut this door so that we don't hear Halo in the background of this peaceful recuperation of Devil's Acre as a soundtrack. That would be a wild thing to have going on in the background. So I was like, I'm going to have to shut this door. And I was like, if I shut this door, what are the chances that halfway through this live, he is going to go absolutely apeshit? And because he'll do that. He'll be completely peaceful, and then he'll just go straight into crackhead mode. And zero brain cells on this one. Spike was the one who broke Pond's water dish. Just by getting startled. He's adorable, though. But every once in a while, you know the look, like his eyes will dilate, and then he'll jump on the couch, and then just, like, straight belly to the top of the couch, and, like, snake his arms around, like, the backs of the couch, and then just drag himself forward really fast, like a possessed demon, and just do that all the way across the couch. No, Pawn just sat there. Like, it was wild. Pawn was on top of the dog food, and she just got up long enough to, like, look around the corner and be like, didn't move. Oh, thank you for the follow. Yeah, oh yeah, no brain cells. Just glass. Just glass and water everywhere. And then he startled himself and took off like a bat out of hell. I was like, this cat, you guys, this cat. I'm gonna have to get a new cat carrier too, because the plastic bit on the end of that carrier, like, broke. And now it, like, separates. So you have to, like, when you hold the handle, you also have to hold the bottom just to hold it together. I don't know how that happened, but it was probably Spike. He gets severe road anxiety when we take him to get his vaccinations, which he got his last vaccination on Monday, didn't you, buddy? Now, I did have a moment where I was trying to fall asleep, and I was in bed, and, there were no indications that there was a cat in this room at all. I did not know that a cat was present. And somehow, making no noise or indication that he had entered the room, he just grabbed onto my foot from below the bed somehow, and I was like, fuck, what was that? And that was straight up, because he made no noise, and I have no idea how he did that. That was a spook show. That was not fair. Oh yeah, it was whole stealth mode. It's whole stealth mode. I was like, why did you do that, boy? Why did you do that, my guy? Absolutely not. That was terrible. He likes this pillow. I'll come in here and the pillow will, like, be laying flat down, and he'll just be on top of it, curled up, and exactly where I'm sitting. This is his spot now. He likes this spot in particular. And I've been sleeping with the lights on. I don't know why I've done this to myself. Oh no, so you've been watching too much horror. That's what you've been doing. What always cures that is to go in the opposite direction, get, like, a really bad B horror movie, and watch that. One that's, like, insanely ridiculous. Like Rubber or something, or, like, you know, something stupid. Because then it kind of, more than watching comfort content, it, like, takes me out of it. I don't know. Yes! Denny was. I like that you got that. I like Repo, but it is ridiculous. But I find I only watch new horror with someone, so I've been watching ones I've seen. Oh. I don't know what your cool-off method is, but I don't normally... Horror movies don't scare me nearly so much as my own imagination. Like, I can watch, like, a quote-unquote scary movie or a horror movie and be perfectly fine. And I don't know why this is. The one thing that I'm not super cool on, that the only horror movie that legitimately got me was This was years ago. This was like 15 years ago or something. Quarantine. Quarantine got me. But that was the only one, and everything else I don't really have a super. And for me, horror games don't continue to produce terror unless they are on. Like once I shut the game off, I'm out of it. I'm out of it. Like I could play Outlast in the dark and be absolutely terrified out of my mind for the duration of the time that I'm playing. But the second the game is off, I'm like, I'm fine. Like I'm good. But books are what get me. Books are terrible. If I'm reading like an absolutely terrifying book, like The Troop actually got me. I'm like, the government would do that. Like, if you let my imagination do the rest of the journey for me, I'll complete the end of the sentence. Don't worry. And so, like, horror stories, stuff that's gory or like body horror doesn't really bother me too much. What bothers me is when I let my mind fill in the blanks. That's what really bothers me because my mind is the worst at that. So the absolute worst thing you could do is give me like a cliffhanger horror to where there's no resolution in book format, to where I know, and you've been there, where I will start reading this, it will be late at night, I will conclude reading it, I will be alone in the dark in my home, and then my mind will do the rest. That is where I will actually be scared. That's just a jump scare. That's not horror. I mean, it's in the horror genre, so it fits, but like, you know what I mean? To me, there's a very distinct difference in gradations of what people would just genre type as horror, because if you think about it, Phasmophobia, stuff like that, demonology, all that it's horror, but it's not horror. It's more funny than anything. If you're playing, especially if you're playing it with a group of people, more than half the time it's just going to be epically hilarious. But horror in and of itself is because to me, in all honesty, like stuff that people would classically conclude as horror, to me in my brain, I register as something else. Like Saw, not horror. It's not. To me, that classifies into a very specific subcategory of like body horror or torture P. You know, like that's what that is. You know what I mean? That's a subgenre. What I mean is if it is intending to instill a feeling of fear in you that does not conclude when the product has stopped. That is to me horror. If that is what it's at least intending to do. Stuff that has no consequence for me doesn't make me scared. So like people can watch Saw and like get scared while they're watching it, especially if they're squeamish or something. Or, you know, the other horror movie that has a lot of body horror in it. You know the one. The three people and you get it. I'm not saying it on here. It doesn't qualify. I don't consider it as like the right kind of. To me, it doesn't pose a threat. Anything that doesn't pose a threat after beyond what the world that it's creating doesn't qualify. If there was a space in reality, or just any reality where I could feasibly conclude that I could be in danger, in the safety of my own home especially, you've done your job. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Same the reason why I can still never watch I Know What You Did Last Summer. Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing, is we all have our like blind spots. A lot of horror is like that. It's different for everybody, which I think makes it a very accessible medium for people, because people have different things that they respond to. What I respond to and what I think is horrifying may not horrify you. And what horrifies you, I might be like, oh, that? You know, like, everybody has like a different concept of what horror is, right? And I'm going to be honest, the best horror movie I've seen in a long time that a lot of people wouldn't think to categorize as a horror movie was Mother with Jennifer Lawrence. Best horror movie I've seen in years. But it's not classic horror. It doesn't make you like classically afraid. There are no direct demons or bad guys or threats. There is only the horror in existence over and over and over. And it's terrible. And that, to me, existential horror is what gets me. And so I left that movie and I was like, oh man. Terrible. I've rewatched it several times. It's terrible. Yes, exactly. Existential horror. Like, you more than anything, because it has a lot of corollaries, right? Several different people could watch that movie and it tell a different story to them. Like, someone could watch it and be like, oh, this is about motherhood and being a woman and the horror and being a woman, and another one could be like, no, wait, this is about the human existence and like this and that, and someone else could watch it and be like, this is about religion and this is about a fallen god, and you could do all of that. You could do like, this is about the corruption of man. Several people, you could get a group of 5 different people from different backgrounds, have them watch it, and they would tell you it's about something different. It's nuts. And I highly suggest you watch it if you're up for it. Best horror movie I've seen in a long time, because it's not just like very cut and dry, and it makes you feel existential about your own existence, and you fall asleep wondering where you're going in life and if humanity has already fallen. Dad's here.
Found out what's wrong with the dog.
You found out what's wrong with the dog?
Yeah.
It's the dog's... Oh, yeah. No.
Poor baby.
No. Dave was making butter. Dave was making butter yesterday.
Oh my god.
To put in brownies yesterday. He threw out the vegetation left over from the butter behind the trash cans, thinking it's vegetation, it will decompose. The dog definitely won't eat it. The dog ate it. Yesterday afternoon, the dog started acting in a very peculiar fashion, acting like he would possibly throw up at any moment. He was retching, he was just making this like sound, and we were like, that's no good. So we kept letting him go out thinking he would, throw up, or he didn't throw up. At a certain point, while we were watching wrestling the previous evening, the dog freaked the fuck out and decided he had to go run around the house at full speed several times. So Dave, stopping the tape, then took the dog out, let him run repeatedly around the yard. After being validated by Dave for several moments, he would run around several times and look at Dave like, "Are you proud of me, Dad?" And he'd be like, "Yeah, keep running." And the dog was acting like an insane person, right? Dog ran around for 15 minutes as fast as he could, freaking out.
Hold on to the ground at the moment.
He was positively vibrating with energy. He came inside, and I was like, "Did you do something to the dog?" And Dave was like, "No." I didn't do anything to the dog. I don't know what could have happened unless... And I was like, unless what? And he was like, well, unless he ate the vegetation behind the trash cans that made the butter special. And I was like...
Oh, no.
You didn't throw that away? And he was like, I didn't think he'd eat it. And I was like, what do you mean you didn't think he'd eat it? The dog eats everything. So, the dog just then proceeded to become immobile and borderline unconscious for several hours, during which I questioned if he was still alive. The dog was just like, I've never seen him completely still. The dog is always moving. Even in his sleep, he's like running after fake rabbits or something. And nothing. He was absolutely dead to the world. After we got done with wrestling, Dave tried to ask the dog if he wanted to go out again. And it was like, and normally whenever he asks Scout if he wants to go out, he leaps up to his feet, he wags his tail, he's ready to go at all times. Even if he just went out 5 minutes ago, that's how he reacts. When Dave asked him if he wanted to go out after wrestling, he did the equivalent of like you waking up after 12 hours of sleep after you took like a half a bottle of NyQuil, is how he reacted. He just woke up and was like,
Do what?
and Dave repeated it, and he's still just kind of like... He did not know
Motherfucker rebooted.
time or space. He has no idea what happened to him. He has no context for what led to this. I can't imagine the horror show that dog is going through, not knowing how that happened. Because he's got to be like, oh, I started feeling sick. And then I felt great. I felt so good. And then I became unconscious. Like, he has no context for why that occurred.
Oh, he's not Addison, so he can't verbalize it.
The dog has never partaken of any substance like that. And had no idea what was happening. He's still been kind of out of sorts all day. He's just been kind of like walking around like confused as shit. And that's at least a bit of a return to normal, because he's normally confused as shit. But normally he's just confused about like other things. But he normally at least knows the house pretty well. And knows who we are and the cats are. But it's like he's looking at the whole world with new eyes. He's like, I see everything different now. I didn't know the lights were so bright. That's how he's walking around.
So this
all
poor
day.
bastard.
This poor bastard has been walking around with no context of how this occurred. This was entirely accidental. We did not do this on purpose. But that dog...
Poor baby. He can't hold on to the fucking ground anymore.
No.
He came into the kitchen and he just like comes over to me and like he's wobbling, trying to walk.
He's trying to walk around, and it's like he's
still like got booties on or something.
Oh yeah, he's walking super strange today.
And then he had to lean against me just to stand still.
Yeah,
like whole body weight. I'm like, oh baby.
He's also like just even more easily startled than he was. I shifted my seat while I was doing the prep read for tonight, and he just like shook the whole floor in the living room. I was like, God, I just wanted to change which foot I was sitting on. Damn. Dog acted crazy.
Oh, for sure.
Oh, yeah. He journeyed to a whole other dimension. He
went to Dreamlands.
He...
And with no plan for cats.
Swap sides. He went to an alternate dimension, and he does not know how to come down now. That dog's never going to be the same.
No.
I'm sure he'll return and he'll be fine. But then he went and drank like all of his water all at once when he got back in.
I wonder why.
So it's like, bitch has got dry mouth. That's what it is.
He needs that cottonmouth killer is what he needs.
Yeah, he needs that water. He needs to be hydrated. That motherfucker needs water. But yeah, he's just walking around kind of out of it today. He's like, what happened to me? Lights are so bright now. I don't even know what's going on. Who are you? It was wild. It was wild.
That poor baby.
Yeah, that poor fucked up baby.
Also, I see an eyeball.
Oh, bet.
There's a little spike over here.
Oh, bet. Yeah,
This
Spike
one
has
is
been
just
in
like
here the entire
eyeballing.
time.
Oh, I know.
I voted. Okay. Sorry. Did you get to vote?
Yeah.
Sweet. Okay. Making sure. Because I didn't catch it. I knew you were like, did you go to the high school? So I was like, Dad probably voted.
Yeah,
And
I went to
didn't
high
get see
school
your
at like
response.
fucking 9 o'clock this morning.
We went like later in the day. So we missed you by several hours. And then we went and got Popeyes.
I mean, that's fair.
And then I came home and I was knitting the toga sweater and listening to Night Vale. I'm making a toga sweater because I want to cosplay toga. I want to cosplay anything at this point. I gotta get my life back on track. I gotta get this room cleaned up. I gotta get the rest of my Sharon stuff in. Yeah. I got the wig. I got the cloak.
Hell yeah.
The
Yeah.
cloak's gray, but it's gonna have a black hood. I gotta get the rest of the hood. And all the other stuff. I think it's on my wish list, but, you know, I'm taking care of it. So you don't have to donate to that. I've already got it blocked out. If we could get scheduling under control at work, I'd be able to afford it faster.
Facts.
But Rome wasn't built in a day and all that. Whatever.
You have Hawaiian style spam rice in there.
Sick.
It's in the fridge.
Sick.
I gave some to Dave too.
Well, we're gonna probably start a game stream here in a bit. All that really, do we want to continue playing Super Meat Boy, or do we want to play Binding of Isaac some more? We've finished Death's Door. Finished it.
Mm-hmm. You hundo percented that shit.
Finished it. All of it. I 100%ed that bitch.
Mm-hmm.
I got all the collectibles. I got all the shit. I got the final weapon. It was dope. Sorry, I was really proud of that one. We had... I'll show you the ending if you want. But we, we finished that bitch. Yeah, we finished it. It's crazy. It was a while ago. It's like a few weeks ago. We still have Cult of the Lamb we can play. I do not know where Cult of the Lamb is going beyond a certain point. Because you could continue playing it, but I think you just keep getting amulets. And if there's another thing that you have to do, I'm pretty sure it's the hardest fucking bitch in the whole thing. Where are you at in Cult of the Lamb right now?
I don't know. I've been playing Super Meat Boy and getting more and more frustrated. So then I've been, partaking in my own vape. And calming down, playing some more, and then getting frustrated, and then...
It's a frustrating game.
It's a continuation of the cycle. I think I died about 40 times on one level.
Playthrough of it.
At
it's
least.
So upsetting.
At
Can't even
least
look up
in
a
one
playthrough for
spot.
that game.
In one spot, it was disgusting because it just populated with Bandage Girl. It was so many.
Oh,
Like, you couldn't see the fucking screen, that many.
I'm down for it, but like also I haven't played it in a few days because I've been knitting a sweater and not practicing it, so it's gonna be
That B button.
rough. Also that B button though, I gotta get new Joy-Cons
What I think is...
for Super Meat Boy specifically.
What if
because
you got
I
a
feel like the B button is
controller?
slowly becoming depressed into it, and it is becoming problematic.
Like a controller.
I don't know if that would feel right in my chingers.
That's fair.
Because at this point, I've gotten used to
The Joy-Cons.
the Joy-Cons.
Yeah.
And now I am afraid that if I fuck with my dynamic, I will not be able to game as efficiently as I would with the Joy-Cons.
That's fair.
So, unsure. We'll see. But yeah, we have a couple options. I'm pretty sure what I have to do in Cult of Lamb. Because we've beaten the one who waits, right? And the one who waits is part of our cult, blah 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 blah. And then after you do that, the angel comes down and opens Purgatory. And Purgatory gives you two options. You can either do a boss run or you can do a level run where you go through all the levels at once. Darkwood through Silk Cradle. And there are certain stipulations, like you can beat it with different fleeces that you've collected through the games, and you can beat it multiple times.
Okay.
And you can max out the amount of times that you've won, but I don't know what happens after you do that. I've tried to look it up. It is on a Reddit that no longer exists, is the only answer. So I'm like, what happens when you do that? Do you get to fight the angel? What happens?
Do we fight God?
Can I fight God? That's what I
I've got a
really
lot
wanna
of
know.
shit I
Is
want
I'm
to say
like,
to that motherfucker.
Can I fight God? And Google has not held a lot of answers for me personally, and I want to know. I 100%ed both the stream file for Death's Door and my file, which was sick, by the way. I didn't think I was gonna be able to get it. The last fight is really hard. A couple weeks ago, I can boot it back up and show you the end if you want. I will do so, specifically because you requested that game. But yeah, it was a couple weeks ago.
Oh, and the crow's name is definitely Bill. Because it's after Nick Offerman's character.
Okay.
The crow that Diana got me. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Diana made all those. Yeah. It's even more special because it's homemade.
Hell yeah. He's my cuddle buddy.
Anyway, the crow's name is Bill.
Yeah.
The crow's name is Bill.
Yep. I'll share pictures when
We
I go
may
back home.
have. I don't know. We will boot up the file. We'll boot up the file and you can see the ending. I think I can, most games you can go back through to the last bit and then run through the credits again if you want to. So, yes! I love this cat. Also, this is Spike's favorite pillow too, so now we have a problem. No problem. We'll check the end of the game because we got to decide what we're gonna play anyway. I can reasonably go through Binding of Isaac again. I feel like. Super Meat Boy might be a bit of a struggle with the B button, but I can play that if it is entertaining for you. We don't have a problem. No, you don't have to do that. You're gonna be busy all the time making just random shit. And that's okay. I like the cat. I like the cat's little whiskers. You can just stick your fingers on them. Okay. It's adorable. And besides, anytime he's on the pillow, I can annoy him. So,
That's my
when he settles here for the night, I can then pet him and pick him up. And even though he protests, but he'll lay there for like a good couple of minutes while he's like, "Yes, pet me," and then he'll spaz out. You'll get him for like a good maybe 10, 30 seconds, up to 10 to 15 minutes. It's a mystery when he's gonna spaz, but eventually he will spaz and he will try and claw up your shoulder. It's adorable. Anyway, I feel like we boot up Death's Door. I run the end credit scene so Diana can see it, and then maybe we boot up Binding of Isaac this time.
That works.
Because I will have to sink some money into some new Joy-Cons for the B button. Because it is absolutely destroying my B button.
Oh, yeah.
Fun game. Phenomenal game. Love the game. Highly entertaining when I die 50,000 times. Is my B button going to stop work? Yes, it will stop work. Mystery when? We won't know. Until B button gone.
Until B button go.
And then we won't have B button.
And then really bad time in Binding of Isaac.
Really bad time. Every place. In every game. B button is necessary. I would have to physically go into the game and remap the controls to bypass the B button. And even then, I would still accidentally press the B button. Literally all the time. And even then, what would I remap the other control to be B? Because you would have to put something on B. It just wouldn't be the typical, Anyway, we're going to figure it out. Anyway, I will see you here in a minute. We're going to boot up the game stream. Dad brought food, so I might chow on that for a few minutes. And then we are going to boot up Death's Door and show the ending again for anybody who might have missed it, especially Diana, because Diana suggested the game. So, of course, if you suggest a game, you're entitled to get the ending. You get the ending. I'll get you that ending. Anyway, and then we will sink all of our efforts into trying to beat various levels on Binding of Isaac. I've gotten a lot better, if it makes a difference. I know it seems like I'm lying, and like I don't achieve anything in the game while I'm on stream. And I know that it seems like I'm not that good at it. But the thing is that I have accomplishments. You can see them on the completion marks paper. And I got really far with Judas. I got pretty far. I beat 2 levels on hard with Judas. You have 1 hit point with him, by the way. That's how you start out the game, is with 1 hit point. And I made it through 2 hard levels. Level hard. You can see the completion marks. And yet when I am on stream, I complete nothing. It is my curse. The game just gatekeeps me. It knows when I'm streaming is the deal. It's OBS. OBS, it sends like a signal to the game developers. They're sitting at home on Twitter and they're like, oh shit, we gotta change the seed code for this level just to make sure he doesn't beat it. That's what happens.
FYI.
It's a conspiracy.
The governor, we wanted one.
The government?
The governor, we wanted one. The government? It's the government. It's all been the government. It's always the government.
I misheard you. I
No,
misheard you
you're
go,
fine.
by the way, the government? And I was like, the government? Yes?
The government's the one that changes your seed code.
Yay, Bashir. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Great.
Well, the rest of that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
But
The government? Remember, the government is always watching. Speak louder into your phones for the secret police to easily hear you. They
Hello?
monitor it with the birds.
just, hello?
You just make sure that you have interesting topics for the secret police.
Baby.
Oh, little kitty.
Baby.
Oh,
Baby.
little baby. And Spike says hi.
Oh, baby.
Say hi. Oh, baby.
Ooh, I hear him rumbling over here.
Oh, yeah. He's got big purrs.
He does.
He's a lot to say. Don't you, buddy? Big stretch. Big stretch. Yeah.
Does he dangle?
Oh, he's a long boy.
Him's a
He's
good boy.
long boy.
Him's
He's
lets
a
you do
long
anything.
boy.
He dangle.
He does like to run around a lot, though. He's got a lot of energy because he's a rambunctious kitten. So he doesn't like to be held for too long, but he will let you hold him. He's people-friendly now. We've conditioned him to be fine
You
with
can bite my fingers, yeah.
certain activities. He does like to bite fingers, especially when he wants to play. He'll just bite fingers.
You can teeth? Okay. I don't care if he teeths on
I
me.
gotta get some new cat toys so that they will have more things to do. Because Pond was so old and she does not like to play anymore, really. You can dangle things in front of her and she will just look at you disdainfully and yowl for her next food time. But these little
Yeah.
babies will attack Yarn. Especially Spike. Spike will attack Yarn and feet and fingers and toes and any adornment that you were wearing on your person, including necklaces. And we love him. We love him
Him's a
very
cute boy.
much.
Do you have
Anyway,
to put your face that
We're
close
going
to
to
the
boot up
water
this game stream. I will see you guys in a few minutes. Thank you for coming out. We're going to do this again next Tuesday. Same time, same place,
Same
same
Kablam
story.
time.
What?
Same Kablam time. Same Kablam network.
Yes. Same Kablam time, same Kablam network. Thank you for coming.